Dogs and cats are treated as commodities and slaughtered for their meat, with dog and cat fur used to manufacture bags, toys, and clothes. While some of these animals are born, raised, and killed on farms, most are taken from city streets and gardens, separating families from their beloved companions. Though the majority of people in Asia do not consume these animals, some still do, with many mistakenly believing in the meat's health benefits. China, South Korea, Indonesia, and Vietnam are just a few of the nations that allow the trade and consumption of dog and cat meat.
对，很多呀，你看这个，他就只能说先这样，给你们舒服一点。咪咪，你别怕，眼睛好漂亮啊，白猫。
我们真实的身份是失主，我们基本上都是猫咪被这些黑产人员以及偷猫贼就是猫咪被他们所偷获以后受的精神的伤害痛苦很大，然后我们也是一个比较相对于对情感和动物的情感就是良知也好，自己的一个良知也好，就是觉得总要做些什么。
还有哪个？还有大橘，和熊猫一样的。小心。吃吧，哎呀，吃了啊。这里好像也是布。还有一只布偶。快！不是。那只很有特色。快！不怕，这来的啊。
就是这是一个产业了，就不是现在才有的。是已经存在几十年了，这样每天从外省就是通过这种把就是上千只猫咪装在货车里面运输到，可能通过1000多公里啊左右，1500公里左右，然后路程，然后运送到广东，每天可能都达到几十辆的猫车。
大哥，哎，我说你转身走回来，然后他说这样吧，我出500块钱，他说我每个月学。姐，你不要天天往外走啊！
Hey guys, it's me here, Comrade Lavender here, and I'm back with another anti-capitalism, true crime, deep dive YouTube video topic. Today I want to dive into the topic of pure evil, the cat and dog meat industry files, deep dive, true crime, pet theft, zoonotic diseases, animal cruelty, and more, etc. Disclaimer, before anyone comes at me in this video about, oh, why are you not talking about how Westerners eat, pigs or cows or things like that? Why are you only talking about Asian countries eating cats and dogs, but why are you not talking about other countries eating like chickens and pigs and cows like that? I've already covered topics on like the pork the beef industry, the chicken industry, the egg industry, the seafood industry, etc. If you'd like to check those videos out, they'll be on the screen right now. All my videos before we get into this topic will be on the screen right now if it's related to this topic. If you'd like to check out my other YouTube videos that I've made on, other industries like the seafood industry, etc., they'll be on the screen right now. So let's get started on this YouTube video topic. The history of the dog meat trade throughout the years in history. The eating of dog meat can be traced back to the antiquity in parts of Southeast Asia within the Philippines. It now only occurs in a very small region in the north of the country. It is genuinely associated with male drinking culture in bars. 30 years ago, it was a common practice for dogs to be rounded up or stolen off the streets and piled onto trucks, often under false flooring to try to hide them and conceal them from public viewing. The dogs would then be transported in these conditions for up to 24 hours, piled on top of each other, desperately frightened with no idea of what fate awaited them. Many dogs would perish on these long journeys and barbaric journeys and transport, and those that did survive were brutally unalived upon arrival, before being skinned and sold for the meat industry. At the height of its trade, it was believed that up to 500,000 dogs were being unalived every year in the Philippines. Fortunately, the slaughter of dogs for human consumption is now illegal in the Philippines under the 1998 Animal Welfare Act. This has obviously made it so much harder for the traders to continue, but where there's money to be made in any industry, legally or otherwise, someone is always likely to give it a try. despite the dramatic decrease in the trade, which was further exacerbated by amendments to the laws in 2011, introducing heavier penalties. They are still aware of a small amount of trading that goes on in the Philippines. Dog meat consumption has a long, controversial history in South Korea, with some evidence suggesting it dates back to the Neolithic period, though its popularity has declined, especially among the younger generation of South Koreans due to rising pet ownership and growing animal welfare concerns. The practice has faced increasingly criticism, both domestically and internationally, particularly from animal rights vegan groups who object to inhumane conditions and practices. Younger South Koreans tend to view dogs as pets, leading to a decline in dog meat consumption. Seoul, South Korea, acknowledging the existence of at least 528 Seoul Korean restaurants that sell dog meat, plus 70 more that may offer dog meat as a summer special. Seoul, South Korea, Seoul City health officials, April 12, 2008, announced that they would begin inspecting dog meat carcasses. The city will now take samples of dog meat from about 530 restaurants and examine them to see if they contain any harmful substances or chemicals, such as heavy metals, antibiotics, and bacteria, wrote Korean Times staff reporter Kim Tae-jong. The city inspection initiative follows years of efforts by the dog meat industry to have dogs recognized as a meat animal, on the pretext that traffic in the species not so recognized cannot be regulated under the existing hygiene laws. Selling dog meat for human consumption has been technically illegal since 1983, but the law has never really been enforced, and provides no means for it to be enforced. The city also plans to propose that the central government categorize dogs as livestock. Kim Tae-jong added, recalling that similar proposals was introduced in South Korean parliament in 2001, but was scrapped due to the humane opposition. The South Korean Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry then tried to classify dogs as livestock by administrative decree in 2003, but it was also rebuffed, waiting 4 years before trying again. The Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry in July 2007 proposed a new animal protection law that contained a passage recognized by Korea Animal Protection Society founder Sazin Kum as a backdoor attempt to legalize dog meat. Other Korean animal welfare organizations disagreed and prompted the law as written. It took effect on January 27, 2008. In only 2 months, said Sudan Kum. Seoul Mayor Oh Si-hun announced the introduction of the protocol for lawfully killing and eating dogs. This clearly shows that the revision of animal protection law was prepared only to show foreigners rather than for animal protection. If you start separating dogs for consumption from pet dogs, you will open a floodgate, agreed Korea Kennel Federation Representative Chung Tae-gon. We think dogs should not be consumed at all. Oh Se-hun issued the new Seoul dog meat hygiene management policy on March 24th. For years, Korean groups have worked on public education campaigns to promote the concept that dogs are not food. Pei F. Su posted on the Asian Animal Protection Network news group. They are asking for support in other Asian communities with the hope that countries that have already banned the consumption of dog and cat meat, including Taiwan, Thailand, and the Philippines, could help persuade the Korean government not to legalize this animal abuse. Last year, the Research Institute of Public Health and Environment conducted a study, and it discovered germs. That is why we think putting dog meat into the flow of livestock monitoring is needed. We have been told that last year during summer, 5 to 6 million dog meat dishes were sold. Since many people eat dog meat, we think it is better to bring the issue to the limelight for the sake of the public health. South Korean restaurant meat buyers currently pay about $4 per pound for dog carcasses, 3 times the wholesale price of pork, but just a seventh of the wholesale price of beef. Up to 100 dishes are prepared from dog carcasses. If all South Korea eats dogs at the Seoul consumption rate, and 50 dishes are made from dog carcasses on average, about about 1 to 1.2 million dogs per year are eaten, about half the number estimated by the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry a decade ago, and a third of the estimated peak consumption. The Korean Kennel Federation estimates that about 3.5 million to 5 million dogs are kept as pets in South Korea. While the dog meat industry is still big, dog meat dealers Jo Chang Goran Ko Si-hoon in July 2007 abandoned an attempt to sell dog meat online. They told Angus France Presse due to public opposition. Their business was based in Seogram, south of Seoul, South Korea. In January 2024, South Korea's parliament passed a bill to ban the slaughter, breeding, and sale of dogs for human consumption. Though the consumption of dog meat will still be legal, the law is set to take full effect in 2027, giving farmers and restaurant owners a 3-year grace period to adjust to the upcoming changes. The ban has been seen as a victory for animal rights vegan groups and a reflection of changing attitudes towards animal welfare in South Korea. There have been cases of dog meat in the United States as well. Irvin Stabani ran Circle S Ranch, located in Kookawa, Wisconsin, in the 1950s. Charges of animal cruelty at Circle S Ranch dated back to at least the 1960s, when a local newspaper ran a story about puppies being unalived and left in frozen pile all winter, and older dogs fighting over a half-frozen calf carcass in a filthy, dirty barn. In 1986, a series of newspaper articles offered eyewitness accounts from former employees who described how he routinely castrated dogs with no anesthesia and how dogs were kept in filthy barns and had to fight over rotten meat, while the bodies of dogs that had passed away were left to decompose and rot out in the open, according to newspaper articles. Sabani collected dogs from people who placed free-to-good home ads or stolen from off the street and in people's backyards. The stories were so shocking that Toby Roth, a U.S. congressman from the district, requested a federal investigation into his ranch. The USDA took no action despite numerous reports and complaints, and the fact that its own inspectors found dozens of violations of the Animal Welfare Act and sanitary regulations that went uncorrected yearly. In June of 1992, an activist in Wisconsin contacted Last Chance for Animals animal rights welfare group. She and her colleagues were frustrated because nothing was being done about Circle S Ranch. The informant came to them with a disturbing rumor that he was actually selling and killing and butchering dogs for people who ate dog meat. The investigation documented numerous individuals entering Circle Ranch and leaving with grain sacks that certainly were not filled with grain. The best chance to document this happening would be a sting operation. That meant someone going to Circle S Ranch, posing as a dog eater, and recording him unaliving and butchering a dog. By the spring of 1993, Last Chance for Animals found a couple willing to do it. Local activists that already contacted the Circle S Ranch to ask about getting fresh dog meat. He quoted his current prices to them: $75 for a big dog, $50 for a medium-sized dog, and $25 for a small dog. The sting operation watched as an undercover couple talked to Stabani in front of the farmhouse. After a few minutes, he led them to the back of the barn. Shortly after, investigators heard a gunshot and knew the dog had just been unalived. The couple recorded undercover tape showing the dog, a Springer Spaniel, being selected inside the barn, trying to get the dog to a post and shooting it old yellow style in the head with a rifle, and finally stuffing the lifeless body into a grain sack. He was charged with improperly killing animals. The hearing took place on August 6, 1994. Stabane was the first Class B dealer to ever have his license permanently revoked. Although he never went to jail, he was out of the business for good. Eating dogs and cats is legal in China, but stealing them isn't. A judge emphasized recently finding a man surnamed Zhang $214, about 2 weeks' wages, for unaliving and cooking what he thought was a stray dog. The Zhangzhou Evening News has reported the dog was actually a lost pet belonging to a woman surnamed Lu. Summarized China Daily, distributing the story nationwide. Zhang, who likes to eat dogs and cats, hung the dog's skin from the fence over a bridge so he could dry and sell it. Upon seeing the skin, Lu tracked down him and demanded that he pay for her dog being unalived because that was her pet. The woman recognized her pet's skin because she had dyed his fur. Chinese state-run media have reportedly increasingly critical about dog and cat meat consumption in recent years. Xinzhou is the capital of Hindan, a province identified in 2007 by the Guangzhou newspaper Xin Kawai Bo as one of 5 that supply cats to these live markets. The Kin Cow Bio report, illustrated with photos of a cat being cooked alive, was intensely critical of the traffic. The Xinzhou case was apparently the first publicized prosecution of a true crime case involving a dog and cat eating in mainland China, since 2 men were sentenced to serve 3 months in prison for marketing dog and cat meat as rabbit in Shanghai, China. A case believed to be the first Hong Kong prosecution for dog eating in decades ended when the 4 defendants on June 28, 2007 began serving a 14-day jail sentences, reduced on appeal from 30-day sentences issued in December 2006. Counsel for Lu Lap K, 49 years old, Wang Zhongheng, 43 years old, Lu Hua Hong, 41 years old, and Wang Chongheng, 49 years old, argued that a jail sentence was excessive because no one before had received more than a suspended sentence for such an offense, reported Antamal Lam of South China Morning Post. Special dish, Little Tiger, the rampant cat meat industry trade in Vietnam. Over 1 million cats are unalived for their meat every single year as part of a cruel and hidden trade. 4 Paws and Change for Animals Foundation reports. While the trade and consumption of dog meat in Asia is increasingly being discussed in public, the equally brutal cat meat trade is still relatively unknown to most people. Globally, global animal welfare organizations 4 Paws and Change for Animals Foundation have now released their findings from investigations into Vietnam's illicit cat meat trade, exposing the true extent of the hidden trade. In Vietnam alone, an estimated 1 million cats every single year, including strays and people's pets, are stolen from the streets and even from inside people's homes, trafficked across the country, and brutally slaughtered for the meat industry trade, locally known as Little Tiger, and once only found in northern provinces of Vietnam. The dish is spreading in popularity nationwide despite increasingly pet ownerships in Vietnam. The trade is not only a threat to animal welfare, but also a threat to human health with the risk of rabies and zoonotic diseases. In contrast to the local dog meat trade, the hunting, slaughtering, and consumption of cats was explicitly illegal in Vietnam until January 2020. However, the law has been revoked, and there are now more demand than ever for cat meat. This is particularly true in the north of the country, but its popularity is also spreading to other parts of Vietnam, as far south as Ho Chi Minh City. The investigations by 4 Paws and Change for Animals Foundation identified Han Toi and Thai Brien Province as Vietnam's cat meat hotspots, with large networks of hundreds of restaurants, holding areas, and slaughterhouses. To meet the increasing demand, free-roaming stray and pet cats were captured, stolen, and sold alive to wholesalers or directly to restaurants for slaughtering. According to organizations, there are no farms in Vietnam where cats are bred specifically for the meat trade. At the wholesalers, we discovered many cats that had pet collars on, a clear sign that they were stolen pets. During our research, we also met many pet owners who were desperately looking for their stolen cats. The authorities usually turn a blind eye to this because they're often involved in the cat meat trade themselves, either profiting from bribes or customers themselves. Some restaurants purchase the animal directly from cat thieves and slaughter them inside their premises, but most operate with wholesalers and slaughterhouses. In holding areas, the wholesalers keep the cats crammed into small cages, battery cages, for several days until they have collected enough animals to cover the cost of the transport. Over hundreds of miles, the cats are transported without water, food, and significant ventilation to the slaughterhouses scattered throughout Vietnam. Some wholesalers even use luggage compartments on regular passenger buses for the trafficking of these pet cats. In slaughterhouses, the cats are usually drowned, provided they have not passed away from exhaustion, heat stroke, or other injuries caused by their brutal capture and transportation. Cats are sometimes bludgeoned and unalived with a hammer, boiled alive, or unalived by electrocution. The cat meat trade is a profitable business. The prices for cats and cat meat are based on weight, with live cats going for $6.50 per 2.2 labels pounds and their raw meat going for $8.50 per 2.2 labels pounds, according to the latest research by Four Paws and Chains for Animals Foundation. Black cats are worth even more. The trade is not only a threat to animal welfare but also to human health, with the threat of rabies, a particularly dangerous threat in Southeast Asia, and other diseases. According to Four Paws and Chains for Animals Foundation, the practices used in the cat meat trade could potentially lead to an outbreak of zoonotic diseases in the future, as seen with COVID-19, due to unsanitary conditions, brutal and unhygienic treatment of animals, multi-species transport, holding areas, and slaughter facilities, and cross-border transportation and handling. Without any controls, many of the animals, whether healthy or sick, are transported across the entire country. The unsanitary conditions in holding areas is prime for these diseases to spread, with potentially catastrophic results.